synced up and good, hopefully. Let's see here. Just gonna check the chat before we get going. Okay, got the one. There he is. Okay, is my voice good? No latency, no lag. Good. Ones in the chat. Yes. All right. No need for ones. All right, but we'll just for this time. There's only 50 people in here. A big deal. Okay, good deal. Hope this live. Yeah. All right. Good. Sweet. All right. Basically, what happened is I set up a live, but for somehow I set up a secondary live. So that split up 2 lives, and then when I canceled the one, even though I canceled the one, I guess that kind of created the whole lag between the out of sync with my mouth, because I think the computer was like freaking out, like, what what stream are you using? So I think that's probably what happened with the whole me being out of sync after that. So basically I had to restart my system. So I'm so sorry, guys. It happens, but we're good. God, you'd think usually I have problem with StreamYard, and usually everything's smooth with OBS. So, all right, you are Grace Under Fire. Thank you. All right, yes, let's. Thank you so much, Karen. All right, real quick, Nishad Lindley. I feel like I know this guy now. June 8th, missing this year. He was traveling from Nashville, Tennessee, from Texas. Went missing. He is 6'5". He's pretty tall. You can't miss him. Brown hair, brown eyes, 200 pounds. Last seen in Nashville, Tennessee. He is autistic. If anybody's in that area, please keep a lookout for him. All right, knock that one out. Of course, Aidan Clune, last seen on April 27th, a month prior to Dylan, 50 miles south of Wells in Curry, Nevada. Pulled over on the highway and was tracked about 10 miles into the mountain range and has not been seen since. $5,000 reward for the information leading to his whereabouts. And then one more. Elicio Batista Diaz went missing recently on the 23rd of July. Left from a Phoenix group home. Does not have any money or a phone. Could be living among the homeless, sadly, in the Phoenix area. So blonde hair, blue eyes, just 17 years old. Got his whole life ahead of him. Anybody in that area, please look out for Alicio Diaz. Okay. All right. And shout out to Emo Jim. Hopefully he gets back in here for the $10. I think I caught that when I was trying to look at 2 different chats for 2 different streams. So, okay. All right. Now we can move on. Get out of that. So we're going to do 2 things. So as you guys know, I've been having Steve, he's a former detective, True Crime Web. Shout out to him. He's an amazing guy. And we'll definitely be doing some more work with him in the near future. And we've been kind of, since the latest interviews with the mother, she said that, basically everything was right there in front of her. That was kind of her words. And so I've basically been going back and looking at all of the photos from the early interviews, since these photos were taken when they just got there. And clearly this wasn't... they didn't know it at the time, but this would actually turn out to be part of the crime scene, basically. More of the grain shit, but clearly there's some things that happened, because right now we're looking at a picture of the truck where it's parked at his farm, which is 5 miles east. But I think 2 things definitely did happen. So, yes, I'd love to hear Steve's analysis. Yes, we've had him on the last 2 shows, and I'm going to try to get him on maybe tomorrow, if not Saturday. So, one of the things is I have a new schedule, which I will also do a community post, which is Monday, Thursday, Friday, probably 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. live shows, and I still will do other live shows, like Saturday, Sunday, occasionally, but Monday, Thursday, and Friday are like the set days for sure. So that way there's some kind of schedule for you guys. And so I missed Elise Partlow, thank you for the $2, and Karen Hensley, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I missed those two, so thank you so much, Karen. All right, so and for those who let's say you email me and I've never emailed you back, because I do have for some reason a problem with the email that I have. So I do have a new email. So I am going to type that in now. And for those that like I said, have tried to email me and I've never returned your email, if you would like, especially for like pet time or something like that, here is my new email. Join the mob crew. J is capitalized, everything else lowercase. Join the mob crew at outlook.com. So mods, you want to copy that and maybe post that here and there, and that will be basically we'll switch the email, the one that I normally have, the knowledge is power, we'll change that to the join the mob crew. So that way, because I know there's probably a lot of people that have emailed me, but I've just, for some reason, I don't know where they go. It's crazy. So yeah. So anyway, we in our previous lives, Steven noticed, the hose, which I thought was kind of interesting. That would somebody would Dylan risk driving over that hose? When you got to go 70 miles to go get a new hose. And then looking at this, we noticed some footprints. And they're a little hard to see. It's kind of tough, but you can kind of make out some footprints. And there's some other ones. I noticed some other channels have been kind of looking a little closer at those footprints. But today, I was just staring at this photo again and just happened to notice that there is these two ruts. And if you saw my trailer, then obviously you kind of know where this leads. But I thought this was kind of interesting. Let me back this out here. So here I've got the arrow right here where you can see it. Let me clear this out real quick. And so I immediately recognized what I believe this rut or a groove or wash or however you want to call it is probably from. And that would be probably from when it was power washed. And since this kind of sits up on the hill a little bit, it would make sense that power washing out the truck, it would come out the back here, and you would get this kind of pool, and you would just kind of get this little creek going, flowing out, causing these the wash. And then if you look, it looks like there's a second one that kind of runs along this way right here. And my first assumption would be probably if they pulled the tailgate out, and you could probably even have the tailgate out and the water running off the ends here and off the end of the tailgate here, especially if you're in the back of it. And it could possibly, the second rut here could have created this second little wash here. Yeah, I was thinking rain too. Yeah, I would definitely see, a heavy enough rain could definitely do that for sure as well. That I would not disagree. That was kind of my first thing. But knowing that we know that it's been power washed, I would think that's definitely a contributor to it. And so although that's not like a big thing, my next thing is to cover tracks. You would because at first we were kind of talking about how could you cover up tracks, and we were discussing like maybe a backhoe or something. and kind of flatten it out. And then I was just kind of looking at some pictures, and obviously it wouldn't be that hard to throw some dirt in the back of the truck, something like this here, and then as you go, you could drive along and actually just kind of shovel out some dirt and then kind of pack it down. And then if it was raining, the rain would actually kind of almost smooth it out. And I mean, you could just, and you wouldn't probably, depending on how much tracks you're going to try to cover, but you could literally have dirt in the back of the truck. And you're like 10 feet away from where it's parked, dump a little bit of dirt out, smooth it, drive a little bit more, dump some more dirt out, smooth it out, and then just rinse and repeat until where you park. And especially if this was sitting up on a hill, you could almost just dump probably a bunch of dirt out here, and then with it being kind of hill, you could probably smooth it out, and then with all the water between the rain and the power washer, it would just kind of eventually just kind of smooth out. And that was kind of also something I was thinking about. And yes, and so that's a great point. SD and Copper Horse, hopefully they took mud samples. So when I heard soil sample, it got me thinking that it would not surprise me if they get a picture. I don't have the picture here. Oh, that's weird. But anyway, if they took, this is probably a bad one, but if they took from the wheel wells, or even from the tires themselves, but took some soil samples, and if you guys remember, we drove to the Bovine Mountains at the entrance, and we were actually going over a street or a road that actually they were using the blue quart to like smooth out the road because it was so rocky. So they had this ground up blue quart that they just kind of spread out. And I'm sure that, of course this was the rental car, so we can't look at it right now. But I wouldn't be surprised that some of that stuff actually stuck in the tread itself. And so that's probably one of the soils things that are going on with the soil tests is they're taken from the tire because I think this was driven, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Thank you so much, Tom. Late to the party. Hello, Mob Crew. Hope everyone is having a beautiful day. Same to you, Tom. Thank you so much for the $10, buddy. And we're going to be doing some fun things for donations here. And we'll probably start next week. We're going to toss around a couple ideas, but of course I got the donation dance, but I want to make it a little more interactive for people that donate and make it fun. Just fun all around for the channel. So we'll be doing that for sure here, probably starting next week. So so there was an interview with Candice Cooley via DutyRon. This was 3 days ago, where she kind of wanted to address some of the rumors and kind of lay out what they know as facts. And, of course, working with Steve, law enforcement, he likes to stay on that kind of route. I mean, he does like to speculate, obviously, but especially if we're going to have him on more often with this, I think, we want to kind of stick with that. Is no tire tracks from heavy rain possible? That's curious, Tom, that you mentioned that, because we wanted to do a test. We want to try this weekend. I cannot guarantee it, but you guys know me. I love doing controlled tests, and they tell you a lot. But it's going to be interesting because to kind of really test this theory out, I need a truck. I kind of need this. I mean, obviously, I have the environment. I'm here in Utah. It's not going to be that hard to find that area, but still, there's a lot of things to kind of that we're going to need to kind of replicate, trying to perform this control test and see the different thoughts. But Molly Drake says, I still think they backdragged the backhoe. Same thing. Yeah, for sure. Oh, thank you so much. Bought me a burger. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, we're gonna see if we can figure out some games. Thank you so much, Michelle. You're so awesome. Yeah, so this was just to show Tom and everybody else. This is the picture I was trying to find. You know, you could easily just load up some dirt, and then you just got your tail open, and then just dump some dirt out, cover up the tracks as you go, and then move, you know, another 3 or 4 feet, and then do another scoop, and like I said, rinse and repeat. Just a theory, but I think it's totally plausible. Knowing that Dylan Rounds, I'm sure they had shovels, but Dylan Rounds did have a backhoe, could easily just lift up a big thing of dirt, throw it in the back. Could be one of the many reasons why the truck was power washed. I'm sure there's multiple reasons. But so back to the interview. I'm gonna play that. There is some unseen drone footage that I have. Also some footage that where we were actually walking around looking for Dylan. Actually, Melinda, so that cracked soil, that's just the soil itself. Actually, you'll notice that here in Utah, it's just kind of how our soil is, especially when you get water. Like, if I went, I could literally, I wish I could, I'll have to take some pictures, but like if I took a picture of where our garden hose is at, and take pictures of the ground by the garden hose where the water frequently runs down onto, you'll notice that the area around it is actually all cracked soil because it dries up and then the sun beats down on it and it's kind of like a clay. And so that's where you get kind of like the cracked soil thing coming from. So, yeah, and one more thing, because I really was curious, and of course, I'm going to do a quick poll for you guys. And then there's, let's see, Brenner. Now, unfortunately, I can only do yes and no. Sometimes it allows you to do like extra answers, but for some reason, it just only gives me the option for yes and no. So the question is, if Brenner was responsible, do you think... so if Brenner was responsible for Dylan's disappearance, do you think he had help? So that is the question. And another thing with talking with Steve is, and he reminded me of something that kind of slipped my mind, is that the fact that they've actually labeled Brenner a suspect is huge. And I can't help but think of the Guy Batito Brian Laundrie case because, look, he was at the most a person of interest. And even after they found Gabby, and we pretty much knew who did it, he was still considered a person of interest. And so you got to think, for them to put him as a suspect. And then Steve also told me another thing. He's like, well, how often do you see somebody that's actually like a suspect and then they're, in law enforcement be like wrong about it? So it's always nice to get his input because just the way he obviously looks at things, and I think it's very interesting. So I definitely think in my mind that Brenner is involved, and then if it's Brenner, would he have help? Brenner is more of a recluse, so could this just mean that if it was just Brenner, could that give us some better answers to where he could have possibly taken Dylan, because if it was just him, you could almost say maybe caves or mines are a little less likely, because obviously dead weight, it's a lot, even though Brenner's a bigger guy, not that big, but Dylan still, dead weight is a lot. And then the other thing with the key fob, which this is the key fob, I believe it's similar to one that Dylan had. And let's see here, I think Brenner might be a scapegoat for the person that really committed it. No one there has a solid alibi, and timeline is very vague. Thank you, Tom Man, for the $10. Yeah, I don't, Steve, like I said, just what I was just talking about, when Steve mentioned that he, the fact that they've labeled him a suspect is pretty big. I mean, it's tough for them to even mention somebody as a person of interest. For them to go to suspect, I think is pretty big. And as you can, we'll learn here in just a minute, the mom has basically said they've pretty much have figured out just about everything. They're just waiting for the results, and then they need to find Dylan, or have they found Dylan? And we'll kind of discuss that here in just a minute. So we're going to start playing this interview. This is with DutyRon. I've got the link to the full interview in the description. So shout out to DutyRon. And I know Candace would want some of this information, because one of the things that they said was that the key fob has not been found. I think that's huge. I almost think that actually says a lot. That I think that almost solidifies that this truck was not only somebody had been in the truck, but had been driven. And we know that but Jen's truck could only go like 10 minutes without before it overheats. So, and if we can figure out what most likely vehicle that Dylan was transported in, will give us a better idea of where he could have been dumped. Sadly, I hate to talk about it that way, but
and that's what happened.
Okay, so I'm going to skip it here just a little bit.
It was just a jumbled bunch of...
Okay, so this first question, I'm just going to skip. This is just talking about the Kurt Wadsworth little dilemma in the beginning of the phone call about Dylan being held hostage. That's the first thing she's discussing.
A person of interest. They did speak with him. And I've listened to one of them. I've listened to tidbits that people send me to say, hey, listen to this. And, he says...
Is Brenner a little slow mentally? I don't know. And hey, we got True Crime Web in here too. Hey Steve, is Brenner a little slow mentally? I don't know. The mother, Candace, never said. He came over for a barbecue and was kind of, like I said, he was just a recluse. Really, he wasn't. Barely even knew that he was at the barbecue party. This was like a couple of years ago, but which is kind of crazy to know that this guy was at your barbecue party and could have been responsible for, this, doing this. Thank you so much, Tom. Yeah, I don't know. I just know his past, as far as his past is, he had attempted murder back in 1986, so that's many, many years ago. But then there was also a recent thing that happened a couple of years ago where he apparently tried to beat up an elderly person with a chair, apparently. So, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it came across that way just because he was quiet. Who knows? It's quite possible.
About Dylan like we all do. He was a hardworking kid. He was a farmer. He would come in here to eat. Nothing that has led them to say he's a suspect or person of interest that we are aware of or that has been released. So, and you'll notice nothing nothing's came out that, I mean, he hasn't been arrested, he hasn't been taken in for questioning, just nothing. So, you know, I don't know why there's such a big focus on him besides that first initial phone call that we've cleared up multiple times, that people, they keep wanting to refuse what they're hearing from us, that this is what came of it, and this is, it went from, I was told this by somebody, to, oh, it was a psychic. So,
Let's
you know,
skip this for a
so
little
he
bit.
helped Dylan dig the pond because he's got the backhoe in, and yeah, would help him off and on. Yep, that's why his backhoe was out on Dylan's farm.
Right. And
Okay, so right there, that's interesting. So Kurt's backhoe was actually on Dylan's farm at the time, which is interesting, and that's because he was helping dig the pond.
was there any prior, conversations between Dylan and yourself, or his dad, Justin, or his aunt, or your mom, or anybody about any type of odd behavior from any of these three that I mentioned here? Kurt Wadsworth, Chase Venstra, or James Brenner?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I'd never even heard Chase's name. I had never even heard Chase's name until I found out that's who was in the desert. So
I've actually heard you say that many a times. So,
yeah.
Is there a different level of communication with your son Dylan prior to him going missing between you, or maybe your his dad, or maybe?
Yeah, but usually they leave them in there, bungee cord. Usually, a lot of equipment like that, they usually would leave it in it or near it, from what I understand. From
that we talked about not showing our cards, but is there anything that's out there that's public domain or publicly known already about?
Yeah, Kurt has not been in for questioning, so I think that's huge, to be honest. Like I said, once I started hearing Kurt's interviews, and that's just my opinion, but once I started hearing his interviews and really listening to him over and over, in my honest opinion, and this is just my opinion, I don't think he's involved, just because it just seems like he was just, I don't know, he seems genuine in some sorts. He could be hiding some stuff, but Kurt sounds like in an interview I heard of him. Are you talking about Amber Heard? I hope sounds like an Amber Heard in the interview. Thank you so much, Tom. Yeah, my opinion. I don't know. Maybe he could be overplaying, but I think that's what says a lot. And you got to keep in mind, Kurt actually even had like a pretty big alibi, because his alibi. And it's pretty rock solid, is, his family came, because it's Memorial Weekend, so his family came, like Thursday, Friday, or whatever, and they all went like ATV, four-wheeling or whatever throughout the weekend and stuff. So he had like daughters, family members, so I think that speaks volume. It's not just one person, or it's just, a simple alibi. You've got family members, corroborating your alibi. So I think that's pretty big. And then keep in mind, when after this he's missing, Kurt was just sitting at the bar the entire time. It doesn't sound like he's like on the run or anything, and it sounded like he was kind of just there to help answer some questions. But that's just what I got from it. It is Rocky. Good to see you, Rocky. Yes, it is a live stream. Yeah, we had some hiccups, but
James Brenner.
So what you're watching here, and I've got a bunch of different stuff for you guys for video. We're gonna drone, ground, all sorts of stuff. This is actually the tree that the drone got flown into, or one of them anyway. So actually, what I'm doing right now is trying to go rescue the drone that Nick unfortunately flew into the tree. But it's not his fault. The wind, just all of a sudden there's a big wind gust and it just sucked the drone.
That we might need to talk about here in regards to Dylan.
There's a lot in the case towards him we cannot release, but when you look back from the very beginning, for the people that have been following him, for those who haven't, everything ended. Everything we know was right there that day. Dylan's boots were found there that day. Dylan's grain truck had made it. Everything happened right on that property that he was squatting on. It's like Dylan never left that property, and that's what's led up to where we're at. And there has been a lot.
That is huge. That is like huge. So I'm just gonna play that last little bit. I think that's huge. Let me know what you guys think of this.
It's like Dylan never left that property, and
it's like Dylan never left that property. And she's really talking, I think, like the grain shed. But she's saying basically everything was just right there the entire time, right in front of their face. And, of course, it wasn't until like the second or third week, June 15th, so a little after 2 weeks, that, the FBI got involved, and they officially labeled it a homicide on the 15th or 14th. And then, of course, then once FBI got out there, they were just completely focused on the grain shed. And like I said, we went out there on the second time, and we saw FBI, and they were doing the little grid searches. And so I think, definitely, I think they found a lot there.
That's what's led up to where we're at. And there has been a lot more gathered, and there is a lot more that law enforcement knows that will not be released until the whole story is put together. And that's why he's the main focus right there, is because there is stuff. So we just have to wait for more stuff to be processed.
Sorry, K9. Human error. I'm sorry. I messed up. I set up a stream, accidentally started a secondary stream, and then that caused problems. So I had to literally erase both streams and start over a new one. So I am so sorry about that. I said I just got set up, so Molly's talking. Yeah, but we'll get that fixed, and it should be smooth sailing now. So here's us in, let's see, this is Rosetta. So this is east, kind of northeast of Lucin.
Just wait for everything to be put together, and then hopefully we will get some answers.
And let me ask you, Candace, it was said early on in this, in your son's case, that James Brenner was wearing Dylan's hat. Is there?
Tom says, I wish they had not contaminated the crime scene. After listening to Steve's crime scene video, I can only imagine how much Cooley destroyed and delayed investigations. Yeah, and I think, some blame can go, not all to the family. You got to keep in mind also that, I don't think they're thinking the worst. They're just trying to figure out, oh, hey, where's my son? And so, but yeah, unfortunately, they did. They contaminated it. Probably, obviously, not on purpose, but they did. And then the delayed investigations were actually because it was on the border. So you had, this problem where Box Elder wasn't really taking it seriously in the beginning. Nevada was finally starting to get the ball rolling, but that's in Nevada, and this is in Utah, which is Box Elder. And then finally, when the FBI got there, which is like basically week 3, then everything kind of started going. But yeah, there was definitely some problems, for sure.
Any truth to that?
Well, so it's the same exact hat Dylan had.
Was it his hat though?
I don't know. They've got it in for DNA testing. I can't tell you that. It's being tested, so that's what I know.
Oh, okay.
Whether or not they've gotten that back, I would think so, but I don't know how long it takes. But they have not. There's a lot that they have not told us also that we know is being done, and whether or not it's come back, and they just don't want to tell us.
I'll say this: if it did come back, you won't know about it, and nobody will know about it. They're going to keep that in their case file because that could be used against them in a prosecution. And if they divulge that information publicly, it's a no good. It's no good. So
Right.
there are people that are speaking about it. There are people that are speculating about it. They could speculate and speak about it all they want.
Correct.
I asked you that because I know that you are smart enough that you would not tell me if, in fact, they said something to you that, yeah, it positively came back with Dylan's DNA on it. And I'll say it publicly now. If they come back and tell you that, which I don't think they will, but if they do, please don't say it.
Right.
Don't put it out there. What about Dylan's gun? I want to put all this.
Okay, so this is huge right here. Why did he call his grandmother to tell her he would call her back when he parked the grain truck? Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I apologize. I did get that wrong. I had it right, and then I heard some things, but yeah, so it was him that called his grandmother. So yeah, I did say the wrong thing last time. Her comments sound as if she has been assured by law enforcement that the investigation only needs the loose ends tied up. It does sound like that. It definitely does. Obviously with soil samples and whatever they found, sounds, and then obviously you got the boot. So a lot of stuff is in testing right now, which is going to take some time. So it sounds like all that stuff they're just kind of waiting to come back. But she keeps reiterating that basically everything was right there. So it tells me it's almost like they've basically had most of the puzzles to the pieces to the puzzle. Just now it's just kind of putting them together.
Crap to bed. The gun, was that found? His cell phone? Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
So this is huge. Because we had heard that they did find the key fob and the gun, but now she came out and says no, the key fob was actually a spare key fob that they brought out, and there is a gun that's actually missing. It's a handgun.
So there's confusion on the gun and the key fob. So we found his shotgun, and Grandma and Grandpa, Larry and Karen, brought an extra key fob. So we located a key fob, but it was brought from Rigby, Idaho. His shotgun was in Rigby, Idaho. The pistol and the other key fob wasn't recovered. So that's where it blew up into this. Well, yeah, they found the gun and the key fob. We found a gun, and we got a key fob to his pickup.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's where that is. His cell phone has not been found. A cousin of mine got another Verizon phone and cloned his phone just to look at it. So then Dylan's phone went back online for a minute, and people that were friends with him on Facebook and TikTok, it just started freaking out. So that was not Dylan's phone. That was still before we were getting help from law enforcement. So we were trying to get any information in any way that we could to help us track down Dylan.
Right.
So
yeah, because this is about your son and finding out what's happening to him. So the cell phone, we'll put that to rest. That was you guys cloning the phone. Was that done in conjunction with law enforcement, or you guys did that on your own?
No, my cousins did that. We were still at the point where we just weren't receiving anything from law enforcement. They were still.
And about when was that you guys did that? Early on, first week?
Yeah, it was that first week. It was in the first 7 days or so, I believe.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I would have done probably the same thing if I didn't have any background in law enforcement. I would have done the same thing. But you reported that you did that to law enforcement, right? Whatever the findings were inside that phone during that cloning, and if it.
Yeah, that's supposed to be what it is. It's some kind of feed for the animals. Yes, that's correct. That's what he was growing.
It was an iPhone, then you're getting it out of the cloud. If it's an Android, you're getting it from whatever Google, Google storage or whatever, Google Drive and things of that nature. So yeah, you're not trying to you're not trying to impede an investigation. You're trying to help, if anything.
Yeah, we're just trying to find we were hoping if we turn the phone back on, there might be some text messages to somebody, I mean, anything that we could gather, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. It was all normal.
So this place was interesting that we're looking at here, and this is at kind of the entrance to the Bovine Mountains, and on that road, and I did do a short live while I was actually in this area. And you can't see it right now, but off to the right, there's where they were kind of mined out that blue quart, and which is really beautiful. But we noticed that they used some of this blue quart, they grounded it up, and these roads that you that you kind of drive on are kind of like let me clear this real quick. It's really rocky to the point where it's so bad. So what they do is they kind of pour down some real light rock, and in this case it was that blue quart, because we were just driving, and all of a sudden it's just kind of this blue dirt road, basically is what it looked like, a blue dirt road. And that's from the blue quart that they kind of ground up and then kind of laid down to make it a little bit smoother for people. And I think that's interesting that, let's say that Jim used Dylan's truck to dispose of Dylan. And let's say he went down this road and then dumped him off somewhere, and then came back, parked the truck, and now they do, a soil test on, the tire. They pull all these little test minerals off, each of the tires and under the wheel well, and then they test and see, if there's something that's unique. That blue quart would be very unique. And then they could say, oh, well, we know here in Blue Bovine Mountains, there's an area where they, help kind of smooth out the road with this blue quart. So I think that's definitely a possibility of what they could be doing with the soil test.
And as far as weaponry, he had the long gun and a handgun, and that was it. Just those two weapons, and they're both accounted for.
No, just the shotgun.
Okay, just a shotgun, but not the handgun.
So so that's huge. So I'm sure Steve's watching. He's probably like, oh gosh, here is. That's kind of the problem when you get a bunch of interviews going with other channels, is things get kind of mixed up and you kind of not sure what is fact or not. So it looks like the handgun is still missing. Then, of course, the key fob, which I think is huge. I think that almost just puts more weight onto that. That truck was most likely driven. And I also learned that, and we'll find out in this interview, but if you're watching, because, we saw that picture of where the pump is hooked up, and we weren't sure if the pump was hooked up, if that picture was taken before or after everything else. It was after, because apparently they drained the fuel. So, and I think she talks about it in here.
Or anything taken from his, residence? Any rounds in a box or?
No, his rounds were out there where he usually keeps. I mean, I couldn't say if anywhere particularly missing, because some were loose, some were in the box. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And has his trailer been like impounded, taken in, moved out?
Yeah. They took his campers on June 18th finally. So he had one that was just kind of storage, and the other one that was.
Right.
I
have all I knew of that. I just want you to.
I know.
I want you to put that out there.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Kurt Wadsworth, Chase Venstra, James.
There, you can kind of see it actually too. I do think we fly over it, but it's kind of hard to see right there. But there's actually a pile of that blue quartz. I know. I wish I could take a big handful of it. Back to work for Tom. I will go back and watch. Thank you for all supporting this great channel. I know everyone involved truly appreciates your support. Smash that like button on your way out. Thank you, Tom, buddy. Always a pleasure to have you. Thanks, buddy.
Brenner. James Brenner is still in custody. Chase Venstra is still in custody. Kurt Wadsworth, we know he's out there jabberjawing with everybody and talking it up, yucking it up, Real Housewife style.
That's funny. Yeah, Tom is awesome, and we're gonna be maybe working on
James
a
Brenner.
case coming up here too.
He is in on the charges. We listed them in the last live stream. I'm not going to go over it. He's got tons of stuff, but not any charges against him pertaining to your son, correct? What's your communication level with the FBI and any local? Because I have to assume that the FBI has the lead on this and not these local authorities. Local authorities will be the ones to put out info, but I know how this goes. The feds do all of the electronic forensics. They do all of the DNA. If Ed Wallace was here with us,
Can I just say one thing? This walking through this area was the worst because of all this like dead wood looks like bones. And so I mean I could not stop just like scanning every little bit just in case. Alyssa says, really like this site, Dylan, R.E. Dylan. I like how more relaxed it seems to be, no drama like some of the other channels. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we are drama free here. We got amazing community. Yeah, I got a lot of people that watch Grizzly True Crime, Gizla from Grizzly True Crime. If you aren't subscribed to her, I would highly suggest going over there and subscribing. We kind of share the same community. Yes, I love that we try to stick with facts, but also we do speculate, and we like to do control tests. We like to go out and obviously do things as well, not just cover cases. We actually like to get out and do things as well, and obviously we did our best. We looked, we did four times we went out there to look for Dylan. There's a couple of reasons why we haven't been out there. The main one is because of what Steve has told me, which unfortunately I can't share, but is why law enforcement doesn't want people out there, and he kind of shared that with me behind the scenes, and I kind of understand why they don't want really anybody out there right now. The worst has happened and he is buried. Ground settlement will occur. The body farm in Tennessee is a fascinating study of mechanics of death involving humans. Tennessee is a fascinating study in mechanics. The body farm in Tennessee. Huh. Body farm in Tennessee. Interesting. I'll have to look that up. The body farm in Tennessee. Interesting. So yes, True Crime Web, for those that may not know, that's Steve, former detective. We've had him on a couple times, and we'll probably have him on again, maybe tomorrow or Saturday if he has. Oh well, I think he has a show on Saturday, but I don't know. Maybe tomorrow or Sunday. We'll see. We'll have to reach out to him. But yeah, like I said, this place was a pain in the butt because just all this wood, it's all white, so it's. It's really tough to not want to just, you want to scan every little bit.
You could take 20 minutes and talk about that, but I want this to be just about the fact.
Yeah, this is kind of by Devil's Playground. Now Devil's Playground is at Bovine Mountains, which some people may not know. Yeah, we were right next to Devil's Playground.
Facts. Are you in communication with the FBI on a regular basis? Are they giving you? I know you and I spoke, but are they giving you weekly, daily, bi-weekly? How is this going with the communication? Because people want to know. And you don't have to talk about the communication, but are you in communication with them?
Yeah. So the communication with the FBI is great. I have one point of contact. I'll shoot him a text, and he'll either say, give me 15 or immediately call me. So it's, it's good now.
Just checking the chat here. Yeah, the body farm.
Let everything forensics do its deal before. That's the hard part. There's nothing to update because right now there's been so much gathered that's being forensically tested. We have to wait and see what comes back to get the proper direction that we need to find Dylan and bring him home.
So I think that's interesting. So I think that goes along the lines of these tests, these soil tests that are coming back. I think one of those just relates to what I just talked about. That they probably took a lot of soil samples from the truck, because it's most likely that it was driven, and it's probably a good possibility that it was used in, sadly, dumping something off, and so they're kind of testing to see what they can come up with to kind of give them a better idea. That way, because this place, obviously, we've been out there 4 times. For a lot of you that have been here, you've seen our footage, and we've kind of expanded, and it's like a needle in an ocean. It is just, you couldn't have enough people out there looking for Dylan.
Right, and that's completely understandable. Before we move on to the second part of this, because we're already at...
Thank you. So this is, I think a lot of you guys, you guys have seen this, but I wanted to come back to this because this is in Lucin. This was our second time we went out searching. So this is Lion Mountain here. You actually have the sun tunnels right here, and then if you were to pan right, you would the grain shed location would be about a little less than 2 miles away from our spot. Oh, thank you, Weezy.
$30,000 check, guys. That needs squashed. That was a check that Dylan received to his company for doing custom work. It went to pay for his fuel, his tires, his tractor payments. You can't do anything with a check written to a company. It was written to Dylan's company. It was deposited into his farm account, and it was used to pay his bills, just like all of us adults out there.
Now, the one thing I don't think she's understanding is that's fine, but I don't. People here, you get 30,000. They're not thinking about that stuff. They're just thinking 30,000. So even if the word got out, don't matter what it was about or what kind of check it was. Just if that did get out into a small town, yeah, that would drive a big possibility for a motive to
yeah,
get that money. But yeah, this is, like I said, would have been week, right just at the beginning of week 3.
We drained his irrigation pond, the grain truck, anything that was out there, all of his equipment, the fuel tank has since been drained. Everything that needed stuff taken out of it, drained, looked through, dug through. And I know the FBI, they did some other digs from some of the stuff like that EquiSearch does, and some of the other people that where they'd found disturbed stuff. It didn't end up leading to anything, but they have been out there actively doing that. And that's why we've asked the public to please stay back and let's let them continue this forward now, because the first until June 18th, it was rough. It was hard. We weren't getting what we needed. And once we got past that hump, we're getting what we needed now. And so the area was already so contaminated. We don't need to make it more. And that's why we're asking people, let's let law enforcement do their job, because they have collected a lot of stuff that half of us probably stepped on 25 times.
Right. And that's the thing is, that's so important, is because if there's something that's missed by law enforcement, the last thing you want is a civilian to go kicking something around inadvertently, not knowing, trying to maybe do some good. And, the less amount of people that are out there, the least amount of disturbance, the better. But also,
yeah, this was crazy. Like I said, I know a lot of you guys have seen this. I just wanted to play a little bit of this because this really was crazy to see this. Just the form of it and everything. Kind God, I mean, we were freaking out. I don't think people really realize it. Like, this is only week 3 he'd been missing, and this is right by
So
the
he was
grain
just trying to
shed.
get his seat.
And Nick's like telling me, because I was actually walking the other way. I was walking north. This is south. And he's like, radios me. He's like, oh my gosh, there's a tarp here. There could be a body. I'm like, oh my gosh. Tom Ed says, still listening and working, laugh out loud. 30,000 is like $1 million in Lucin, where Mexican pesos still hold value. Yeah, it's big. If people, you know, like I said, it doesn't matter what the money or how the money was, you know, received, or, you know, just the mention of 30,000 gets people talking, and then I don't think they realize or care how or what, you know, even though this money was straight into, you know, a work account or whatever, and couldn't be touched anyway. But yeah, people hear that, and that's going to drive a motive.
Truck out of the rain. That was it, because the seed will sprout in the truck. Now, he had a tarp on the truck, but the tarp had holes on it. And so everybody who's a farmer out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say your seed can't get wet. And for those of you that don't, it's the same thing. Just think about your planting flowers or any type of wheat, barley, any type of seeds. They get wet and they sprout. You can no longer put them in the ground and make them grow. They're ruined. So that's all he was doing. That seed he'd had down there for a couple weeks, because he left Independence where he was doing custom work, and then he came back and started planting his. I was in Independence seeing him the last week in April, and then I think it was like the second week of May he went and got his grain seed from up at Eastern Idaho's at his father's place. So the grain truck, you know, the shed, you guys, it's not this huge, gigantic. I mean, it's big enough to back a grain truck into. And when we're talking grain truck, we're not talking like 18-wheel semi. I mean, it's just a little 10-wheeler. It's not this gigantic thing with, I'll just clarify for that. You're not going to get sucked up in the auger like people have asked us. It's not, it's just this little old 10-wheeler.
Yes, and another thing I got to remind before I end my show, because I know some people want to become members, but they have
all right,
some kind of Apple
was
phone.
Dylan flashing money in Lucin? Did locals know he had bucks? Could this be why he might have gone missing? Was the word out on he might not have this money come?
Someone would come into the bar/restaurant and say this or do this. We were never once told that. And the only reason people knew about the $30,000 check is because it was from one of the guys. He did custom work in the area, and they met it. It was known. Dylan did the custom work. They, you know.
And that's all it takes right there. That's all it takes. Not saying that guy, you know, maybe that guy has every great intention, but that right there, if this happened in this small town, and all he had to do is tell one person, and bam.
Right.
So,
right.
But nobody ever told us that. Nobody.
Right.
Does that mean
was he a flashy kid? Did he wear gold necklaces?
No.
So yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, that's all it takes is just, you know, the wrong person to hear and not really understand, even, you know, if that check was just kind of a company check. What's up, Annette? I just got here. So yeah, we're kind of watching, and I think this actually might be Dawn's. This actually might be Dawn's location right over here too. So you guys were wondering.
Everything once Justin and I and the family became a little bit level-headed and got to where it's like, hey, we need to focus and get some facts, because this being ran on crazy goose chases about Dylan having a lover's quarrel and all this crap, it got us nowhere but a bunch of bad media attention, which is ridiculous. But every ounce of where that information came from was false. It was all lies, and then it got blown up. Most of it came from Kurt's ex-wife saying, well, Kurt was gay, and so knowing Dylan hung out there, then all of a sudden Dylan was gay, and that's how it all came about. There's no, and whoever listens to the ones that Kurt goes on, he says the same thing. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Everybody in town, once we got...
So this might even be Dawn's spot here, which is kind of south of the grain shed. I'm not 100%, but trying to think of the names, because there was another guy that lives a little bit closer to Lion Mountain. I can't think of his name, but
talking around, there's a lot of good people in the town of Montello. There really is, and all of them are like, that's the craziest thing we've ever heard. And so that just turned into an internet rumor that just exploded. But once again, it wouldn't matter either way.
It's important that, you know, we kind of air it out here.
I don't think Nick realized what this was until he got closer, because it looked like it was just 2 shipping containers, but then it's actually, this is kind of a crazy setup here.
I'll just hear this is the last one.
No, I heard something. I'd have to look, but it was nothing. They didn't really talk about it, so I don't think it was like related to, you know, like if there was like 2 crimes that happened. I think it's probably what you're wondering. But yeah, I was kind of curious about that myself.
Tammy Mathis said, did Dylan call grandma or grandma called Dylan? So these are little.
And sorry, Steve, I did say grandma called Dylan, but it was actually Dylan that called grandma, so I got that wrong.
Facts. Dylan called his grandmother. Right. Okay. And that's not uncommon, because you said he goes around between, you know, you guys. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Any other rumors that you want to clear up here tonight? Candace, you got the floor. Is there anything else that you feel is necessary?
I just think
the other body that was found was missing for 3 years. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Right here. A lot of people.
One I'll answer real quick that I keep seeing coming back. So the answer to, I think it was Joshua, on the walking back and forth between the grain truck. No, that was, he only plants once a year. So the only reason when we originally thought he'd walked back because his pickup wasn't there, you know, he only took the grain truck in because it was raining. So that was not a normal take your grain truck to the shed and walk back to your camper by any means.
Yeah, I thought that was weird to have a short to call her and have a short conversation. Yeah, money, jealousy, mental health. Yeah, that's sure.
When they knew he'd had the guns, but they were taken over to Don's, and Don's, he coughed him up. Don is spotlessly clean record.
So this is Don H. For those that are always kind of wondering about Don H, because like I said, everybody always asks about him.
But once again, never listed as a suspect, never listed as a person.
And so this is a bird's eye view. This is a great view right here. This is the grain shed right here when I'm circling. The gate to it is right here. There is kind of a north T section here. And you got the water hole right here. And I know there's a gate over here, and the property really is like this square. You can kind of see it. It's a square property here. And then there's actually a small little dirt road that would actually kind of take him to either you could go this way to go to the farm or take this little dirt road here.
Person of interest and has been a cooperative, and that's all I know as far as the history with Dylan.
There's actually a pretty cool view here, and this is Pigeon Mountain here.
They've worked together for a 3 years now back because he.
Did I hit the wrong button? And let's see. Oh, the sun tunnels are right here. Then I think that's Dawn's property there. Or
Twitter, and
Yeah.
also YouTube. Did you see something, Candace?
Yeah, I'm curious, George. That is absolutely not Brenner in the Heavy D video. That is a good friend of ours that's helping us search. No, that's not him.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, because people are going crazy talking for hours about that. Somebody sent me a link.
No, he's a good friend of ours. He lives in the same town with us. I don't even know who came up with that was Brenner, but it was not.
That is not James Brenner at any point in the edited video or the original video, because there's two different videos that people are talking about.
He never even came out of his camper the whole time they were flying. He just stayed up there, and he didn't even and he definitely did never come to camp. So
yeah. So everyone's saying thank you for clarifying it. Hey, listen, if you're looking for answers to the questions, you're in the right place. Watch this replay, watch it back. It's an hour and 45 minutes now.
Okay, so yeah, there's that. So so I think one of the big things, so the key fob, just for those that are wondering what, I think most of us know what a key fob is, but for those that might, like Gizla and Grizzly True Crime, she lives in the Netherlands. They have bikes out there. So this is a key fob. And from what I understand is he had the remote access one, which is basically he doesn't need the actual key to start it. Some you can start it by you hit unlock, lock, unlock. So just 1, 2, 3, and it would start the vehicle. I'm assuming you do the same thing to stop it. I'm sure there's a bunch of ways you can set it up, but so it doesn't even actually have a key. I don't even think this one actually has an actual key. It just like I said, the button combinations, you would tap the unlock, lock, and then unlock, and then it would just start the truck. And one of the habits, because we learned that he is a creature of habit, is he would leave his car door unlocked. And there's a conversation between, I think, Kurt and somebody, and he's like, well, I really don't care if somebody takes off with my truck, because as long as I have the key fob, they can only go like 20, 50 feet or whatever, and the truck will die on them. So, but with that, some have a different setup, but it's basically, push button to start, basically, but the fact that the key fob is missing, I think that's huge. I think that almost puts more weight that this truck was taken and driven. And Steve, if you missed the first part, there was something that I noticed, and I've got some new photos I'm going to have to send you, Steve, that we're going to have to go over. But I was looking at this, and this caught my eye. You'll see there's this little rut that goes through right here. And there's another one. It's not as big, but this one's a lot bigger. And it kind of got me thinking that this was most likely caused from when they were power washing and the water was running off, and it created this little wash, river, whatever you want, and so that probably created this here. And then, like I said, you got the secondary one here, right here. And it makes me wonder if the tailgate was open and you had the water flowing out here. So you got the water comes from just the the back end here, and then off the tailgate creating this secondary kind of runoff. And thought that was kind of interesting. And then the biggest thing is because we were talking about the backhoes, but I was thinking, oh my god, I mean, really, all you had to do is just put some dirt. You wouldn't need a lot, and put some dirt in the back of the bed of the truck with a backhoe or a shovel, and then you could literally, kind of pull up to the farm, unload some dirt, flatten it out, pull up a little closer, unload some dirt, flatten it out, and you can literally just hide your tracks. But it's something that we would love to do like a control test for. So it's something that we're going to try to do. I can't promise we're going to do it this weekend. I'm going to try to. There's got to be a lot of things that we need to get a hold of. Of course, a truck would be one of them. I actually do know somebody that actually has, coincidentally, a 2017 Ford Larat Ford F-150. I don't know if they would let me, if they're working or not. I guess it all depends, but yeah, I think it'd be kind of interesting to do some control tests, see if we could kind of what it looked like to kind of cover up some tracks. These kind of basic tracks here. Be kind of interesting to try those out. And let's see what. Yeah, how much vomit did Candace have out there prior to his disappearance? Not sure. Yeah, obviously, they're in Idaho. So. Okay, so the hose. Okay, so how a pressure washer works is the hose actually hooks up, because I know what you guys are saying. No, okay, so you would take the hose, one end goes into your source, which would be the pond or the well. The other hose hooks into the pressure washer, and then you would have like a nozzle. So the hose thing doesn't really, I see what you guys are saying, but one end of the hose would actually go into the well itself. Dude, I gotta, let's see, pretty sure I gotta, let's see, I know I've got one. Do I? Yeah. Okay. So what you would have is you would have a hose that probably went into this here. So you'd have the hose going into here. The other end would hook up into, so let's say his truck is here. You would have a hose line going into the well, or if you had like a source that was closer, you'd have one line going into the source of the water to suck the water from. The other hose would actually hook into a machine, and then from the machine you would have the pressure washer. Oops. Let's do this. I actually used one. So yeah, this is basically something like, so the hose would go, hook up to your water source. So one end's hooked up to your hose, and then the other one would hook up into this machine. Actually, it'd hook up. Oh, here, hold on. Would actually hook up right there. So you'd hook the other end in here, and then all you're actually using is this thing, just like you would at a car wash place or whatever. So the garden hose would just, the one end would plug in here, and then the other end would plug into the well, and then it feeds this thing. This thing gets plugged in, and then you would just unravel this cord here, and then you would spray around. So the hose actually being under the truck means nothing. I think someone actually ran that over, and Dylan wouldn't have. I think Steve's right on with that. I think that is suspicious for them to do that, but that's my opinion. So, yes, it was. Yeah, I'm trying to get pictures. I'm gonna start breaking some other photos down, and so we might. I gotta reach out to Steve, but we're gonna try to have Steve on again here in a day or two, and then we're gonna obviously try to do some control tests over the weekend. So. Aren't spreading Dylan's case? That's weird. Huh. I think it's been popping off, but yeah. Oh, what, Chris? I have to disagree with you. Finally, laugh out loud. Curious. What do you disagree? That's not. It's not a biggie. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit more to it on the source of the water. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, you would basically just plug it in. You were doing great when, yeah. I don't know. You got to take everything with a grain of salt with what people say. Sometimes it's not what, Oh, about the hose? Oh, about being driven over? Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm going to try to look at some more pictures and see what's going on. But to me, in my honest opinion, it looks like the hose, you've got wherever this hose is going. I think one is going to the pressure washer, obviously. Then you got the other line going to, obviously, it's got to have a place where it gets the water. So it's got to be hooked up to the well or something else that feeds the water. So one end feeds the water. The other end would obviously go into the pressure washer. And then, of course, Steve, I told you, this picture right here is actually taken after, because they were actually going to take everything out of this fuel tank here for whatever reason. They probably should have left it, but clearly they just didn't realize that, the severity of everything. But so, all right. Well, see if there's anything else. Just checking that. Like I said, I apologize for the mix-up today earlier about the streaming. I don't know. Started up 2 streams accidentally, so that happens. We're human. But I just want to say thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for everything. I've got pet time coming up, of course. And if you guys, if you haven't seen your pet, and if you tried to email me and I have not completely responded at all, try this new email, the join the mob crew at outlook.com. So that way I can get you guys set up. Yeah, I think, David, so I think that happened after. Actually, and they actually talk about it, because this, I think this picture is like from Justin, like pulled up, or somebody pulled up later after the first time they did the walk around. And, because when you actually... This is a photo I'm trying to look for here. Because as you can see, this photo here, there's no line running off the side here. And I think this is when they first arrived. So I think that whole line with them taking out the fuel line, that was later, and they wanted to take out what was in the fuel tank. So, I'm trying to think. Oh, one more thing. Yes, for those that... that I kept saying with the drone footage. So unfortunately, because some people wanted to help review drone footage, and the lady that I've been in touch with has been so busy to the point that I've almost had like no communication with her. Not that it's her fault. She's been so busy, and she said that she needed to set up a Facebook community post to do it, and she said she was going to do it, or she was going to try to make some time to do it. Keep in mind, she volunteers to do everything when it comes to the search and rescue and review of drone footage. So, and I've asked her over and over. I'm like, just let me know when you have that link so I can send it to people. So because they want to check, help review footage. And unfortunately, I've not gotten anything. So I'm sorry, guys. I've asked over and over, and I don't want to like bug the heck out of her. So I apologize, but I've been asking. She made it seem like super easy. Like it would just, you go to a website and you fill out some questions and then bam, you can help review footage. But I guess there's a few extra steps, and unfortunately she has not really gotten back to me on that. So I'm sorry. I've been trying to ask. So if I do hear anything, I will let you guys know. So, and then everything else, emails, I've been kind of behind on everything just because obviously I just got my new studio set up, and so I'm trying to catch up, so bear with me, and I'll try to get back to everybody via email, and especially for those that have emailed me and I've never returned an email, which probably means I never got your email for some reason, please use the join the mob crew email. So with that, thank you so much for everything. You guys are amazing. And we'll be on tomorrow, and we'll maybe try to have Steve and some other people on tomorrow down the road. So, just taking. Who took the truck home? I'm thinking Brenner did, to be honest. So, a lot of people think that there's more than one person involved. So, we'll end that poll. Oh, where's the truck? Who took it home? Or who just took it? Who took the truck? Yeah, the family's got the truck is in Rigby. It's actually being there's a lot of stuff for like forensic testing is I believe is in Rigby. So I think all that stuff is been taken and is being looked into. So thank goodness. So thank you. You guys are amazing. I couldn't do this without you guys. So I love you guys so much, and let's get into pet time, and we'll have, of course, if you can, keep sending me some pictures, and we'll get a whole new set of pets going here soon. So with that said, I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.